Shalom. All praises to the Heavenly Father. Hatun Apkuya. Praise be to the earthly mother, the Pachamama, and all of her earthly angels, the Waka. Praise be to the Holy Spirit, the Kahe. In the name of Hamashiach, Matzah the Lamb, unification to the nation. So we're continuing, guys, our discussion. Now, as I mentioned in the video I just released, apparently El Dorado was found in Mount Ravima, or at least around that area, and Mount Ravima is in Guyana, and it was considered to be the mythical tree of life that was in the Garden of Eden. That's a very interesting claim. Now, I haven't been able to read the whole book, so we'll take his word for it, but that's not all the proof that I'm gonna have. Excuse me, for what I want to say. So we're gonna start here, and we're gonna start at the concept of the Axis Mundi. The Axis Mundi, also cosmic axis, world axis, world pillar, and center of the world, is a symbol representing the center of the world where the heaven or sky connects with the earth. Different cultures represent the Axis Mundi by varied symbols such as a natural object, a mountain, a tree, a vine, a stalk, a column of smoke or fire, or of a product of human manufacture, a staff, a tower, a ladder, a staircase, a maypole, a cross, a steeple, a rope, a totem pole, a pillar, or a spire. Its proximity to heaven may carry implications that are chiefly religious. And additionally, the Axis Mundi may be feminine, an umbilical providing nourishment, masculine, a phallus providing insemination into a uterus, or neither, the amphalos, or navel. The Axis Mundi features prominently in cultures utilizing shamanic practices or those with animistic belief systems, which is code word for the religion of Shabua, the ancient religion of the ancients. Right? Yet, it also appears in the most technologically advanced cultures, wherever the impulse persists to link attire with the idea of a world center. The term Axis Mundi derives from the Latin words axis and mundi, or world, together meaning pivot point or line connecting the earth and the sky/heavens. Throughout history, most cultures have described their own homeland as the center of the world, because it was the center of their known universe. For example, the name of China, Middle Kingdom, expresses an ancient belief that the country stood at the center of the world. Within this central known universe, a specific spot, often a mountain or other elevated place where earth and sky come closest, gains status as center of the center. The Axis Mundi, high mountains, are typically regarded as sacred by peoples living near them. Shrines are often erected at the summit or base. Japan's highest mountain, Mount Fuji, has long symbolized the world axis in Japanese culture. Mount Kunlun fills a similar role in China. Sioux beliefs take the Black Hills as the Axis Mundi. Mount Kaliash is holy to several religions in Tibet. The ancient Mesopotamia, the cultures of ancient Sumer and Babylon, erected artificial mountains or ziggurats on a flat river plain. These supported staircases leading to the temples at the top. Now that's very, very interesting, because there was literally a temple that sat on Lake Titicaca. And that sounds just like the city of Atlantis that sunk. The one that's very similar to Tenochtitlan. The pre-Columbian residents of Teotihuacan in Mexico erected huge pyramids featuring staircases leading to heaven. The Middle Kingdom, China, had a central mountain, Kunlun, known in Taoist literature as the mountain at the middle of the world. To go into the mountains meant to dedicate oneself to spiritual life. Excuse me. Because the Axis Mundi is an idea that unites a number of concrete images, no contradiction, exists regarding multiple spots as the center of the world. The symbol can operate in a number of locales at once. The ancient Greeks regarded several sites as places of Earth's Amphalos, or navel stone, notably the oracle at Delphi, while still maintaining a belief in a cosmic world tree and in Mount Olympus as the abode of gods. So, what this is pretty much saying is that all these different cultures that have their own version of the Axis Mundi, or the center of the world, or the world tree. However, all of these different cultures are associated with the children of Israel, with the people of Shem, who all had this knowledge. So it does not surprise me that they were all bringing a piece of home, quote unquote, with them into these different areas that they were. And even the ancient Greeks, when you read the scriptures, it says that the tribe of Dan and Javan, they were doing it big with each other, right? Seafaring and stuff like that. So you have the tribe of Dan in Greece, and then later you have the Levites in Greece. And we've gone over the true location of where Delphi truly is in Pythia. We went over that in previous parts of this series. Judaism has Mount Sinai and Mount Zion. Christianity has the Mount of Olives and Calvary. Islam has the Temple Mount, Dome of the Rock, and Mecca. In addition to Kunlun, the ancient Chinese recognized 4 mountains as the pillars of the world. All sacred places constitute world centers. Amphalos, with an altar or place of prayers at its axis. And you're going to see this because this is a place that I've been, harping on, right, for, over a year now. Altars, incense sticks, candles, and torches form the axis by sending a column of smoke and prayer toward heaven. The architecture of sacred places often reflects this role. The stupa of Hinduism and later Buddhism reflects Mount Meru. Cathedrals are laid out in the form of a cross, with the vertical bar representing the union of earth and heaven, as the horizontal bar represents union of people to one another. So that's pretty much what I wanted to read on the Axis Mundi. This is pretty much where, actually, no, there's more I wanted to read. Let's read this as well. A plant can serve as the Axis Mundi. The tree provides an axis that unites 3 planes. Its branches reach for the sky, its trunk meets the earth, and its roots reach down into the underworld. In some Pacific island cultures, the banyan tree, of which the bodhi tree of the sacred fig variety, is the abode of ancestor spirits. The bodhi tree is also the name given to the tree under which Gautama Siddhartha, the historical Buddha, sat on the night he attained enlightenment. The Yggdrasil, or world ash, functions in much the same way in Norse mythology. It is the site where Odin found enlightenment. Other examples include Jivaris, the Luthanian mythology, and Thor's oak in the myths of the pre-Christian Germanic peoples. The tree of life and tree of knowledge of good and evil in Genesis represent 2 aspects of the same image. Each is said to stand at the center of the paradise garden from which 4 rivers flow to nourish the whole world. And we're going to stop right there, because the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil are right next to each other, and they're both at the center of the world. Now, what did this dude say before? That Mount Ravima is supposed to be the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. Is that correct? Now, this is the Axis Mundi for the Mayas, and their version of it is a ceiba tree that grows in the middle of the Guatemala forest. But again, they're only basing this off of the actual place, because it seems like all these different cultures have taken a piece of home to other places. So it would be, if we're trying to find the center, then we have to find what place has all these different cultures wrapped into one. What place do all of these different places connect to? And I can only think of one place. You guys know it well. But we're going to continue. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, the Essene Gospels tell us to pray at noon, right? And 12 o'clock isn't always noon. Noon just means when the sun is at its highest point. Sometimes that's 12 o'clock and sometimes that's 1 o'clock. So I just wanted to mention that. This is another world tree variant, and you have the yin and yang, the bad, the quote unquote negative being the underworld, and the positive being the overworld or the heavens. The Mayans, they call this underworld Cibola. Whoops. Right here, the place of the dead, place of the living, and place of the quote unquote gods or the angels, right? So that's what we're trying to do, man. We are not sent to hell, by the way. Like, that's not necessarily what happens. Usually what happens is that we want to go there because we're wicked. We are continuously sent back here to try to reach up here. And we'll keep coming back until we get it right. That's really what it's about. That's why it talks about that in the religion of Hinduism. It talks about this in the Third Testament as well. Right? We just got to read. It also talks about reincarnation in the books of remembrance as well. So that's not a foreign concept. That's something that's very real. Even, and I have not made this video because it'd be it's a lot of precepting and stuff. And I have other things I'm working on right now. But just to say this, Constantine, if he did exist, he was the person who took out the word reincarnation out of the New Testament. And in fact, the Jews of the Old Testament, they always believed in reincarnation. That was not a concept that was, foreign to them. But anyway, let's continue. This is from the cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is a really great show. Particularly, it shows a lot of our ancient culture, as well as a lot of our ancient teachings that we were teaching over there in Asia and things of that sort. But here you have the world tree, and even here, I believe they burned down this tree at some point in the show. So that's very, very interesting. But as I've been saying throughout this video so far, this tree is actually supposed to be in the Garden of Eden. Now that person said that Mount Ravima is supposed to be the tree of life of the Garden of Eden. And the natives actually say the exact same thing. Did you know that? Because Mount Ravima, let's look that up real quick. Not Garden of Eden. There is actually two quote-unquote mountains or tepuis next to each other. And the natives say that one is the good tree and one is the bad tree. That's what they said. That's what they said. That's not what I say. That's what they said. So, anyway, let's continue. This unique set of Jama Kolke ceramics, a culture that survived from this time period, from the forested hills to the beaches of Ecuador. They are believed to represent a tree of life, seen. In Mesoamerica, the tree of life is the ceiba tree, whose trunk, the Axis Mundi, connected the underworld with our world on the surface of the earth and to the worlds of the sky, and was the point where the 6 directions, north, south, east, west, zenith, and nadar, and I'm guessing that means up and down, came together. The pastel colors, okay, I don't have to read all that. Now let's read this. Mount Ravima history. Before European conquistadors arrived in South America, Indigenous populations revered Mount Ravima as a regional symbol, referring to it as the quote-unquote Axis Mundi, a tree where all the world's fruits and vegetables grow. It was a peaceful and tranquil place, protected by the Malkushi people. So they were referring to this as an Axis Mundi, a tree where all the world's fruits and vegetables grow. And wouldn't you know that, like, I don't know the percentage, I forgot, but it's a very high percentage. It's like 30 or 40% of all the species in the world are literally located on top of the stump of Mount Ravima, which is incredible. In fact, I believe the Orinoco River, it flows out of Mount Ravima. In fact, yes, it does. It flows out of Mount Ravima. And the Spanish said that the Orinoco has to be one of the 4 rivers that flow out of the terrestrial paradise. I'm just quoting their words. So let me see what else. Long before tourists hiked up Mount Roraima, the ancient Indians living near there viewed it with a special mythical significance. The Piedmont Indians saw it as an integral part of world history. The great tree that bore all the fruits and crops was felled by one of their ancestors. The tree crashed to the ground, unleashing a terrible flood. Wow. According to the myth, Mount Roraima is the remaining tree trunk left after the flood, and the rivers flowing therein are the territory of those peoples. The Piedmont also believed anyone who climbed to the top of the Tepuis would not come back alive. So there you go. It's another reference to it being an Axis Mundi, or a center of the world. And what was also called the center of the world? Jerusalem. Now, this when I made the last video, it made me question a little bit about the location of Jerusalem, even though I still think like it's Peru because everything just fits. I'm still asking questions because Venezuela, the land of Venezuela, it definitely fits as far as the prophecy of Jerusalem more than Cusco does. So that's just something to note. It's just something to note. The city of Jerusalem I have set in the midst of nations with countries round about her. Ezekiel 5, verse 5. Since Jerusalem was located in the middle of the known world of antiquity, it naturally occupied a central position on early world maps. During the Middle Ages, strong religious influences caused some map makers to deliberately place Jerusalem at the exact center or navel of the world, in accordance with biblical descriptions. And that's not only in the Bible, but that's also in a lot of the Jewish lore. Now, I didn't get it because I couldn't make the PDF. Book is a bit too big, and I didn't feel like taking a picture and then sending it to my computer and all that. So I'm just letting you guys know that that's in a lot of this ancient Jewish lore as well, that Jerusalem was always known as the center of the world and even the center of the universe. So Jerusalem is an Axis Mundi. So near Jerusalem must be some sort of mountain or tree, what we know as Mount Zion. Interesting. But Venezuela is not that far from Peru, so I mean, I don't know, it could just all be that big navel, right? But what I do know is that Solomon's temple, it was built in the exact same spot that that the Messiah died in, and it's the same spot that Isaac was going to get sacrificed in. It's the same spot that quote unquote Adam first walked on. It is the intersection, the two crosses. So that's more likely the true Axis Mundi. That place that Machu Picchu's built on, that mountain. I'll always question everything. Because Venezuela does fit. Then again, the term Jerusalem is different from the one that Abraham or Shem even was in, because it said that Jerusalem was in the land of Benjamin, which always, like, it confused me, because I'm just like, how is this Benjamin when Jerusalem is also said to be in Judah? So are there two Jerusalems, or is it talking about the same one? I don't even know, bro. I don't know. I don't know. But Venezuela definitely is something. It's something. It has the most crime in all the world. That's the location of Mount Ravima, right? Venezuela is the murder capital of the world. In fact, most of South America and the Caribbean are the murder capitals of the world, but that's prophecy. Anyway, for decades, the elites in Cusco tried to improve the Inca nature of the city, trying to eliminate the Spanish traces of the city. This caused the word Cusco with a Z was prohibited in 1976. Nevertheless, in 1993, the Quechua word Cusco was introduced to denominate to the city, and after some years, the word Cusco was returned. It is known that the Quechua word Cusco descends from an indigenous word meaning navel of the world or center of the universe. The meaning of the navel indicates Cusco as a ritual center, a sacred city where llamas and other offerings were sacrificed in favor of the most important deities of the empire. Okay, so that's why it's called the center of the universe, right? Because llamas were sacrificed to their pagan gods, right? Another thing, the city of Cusco was an Axis Mundi in Incan culture. In medieval times, some Christians thought of Jerusalem as the center of the world, and so was represented in the so-called T and O maps. Byzantine hymns speak of the cross being planted in the center of the earth. So again, when the people came to South America calling it the quote-unquote land of the Holy Cross, what were they talking about? They knew what land it was. I don't care what they think or what they're trying to say is Jerusalem. And my brother, Wakande, if he could remember, if he's watching this video and he knows what video he said this in, he can put it in the comment section and I'll pin it. But he was pretty much explaining that they made their own Jerusalem. They made their own King David. They were LARPing like in 3D. Like they weren't doing it in 2D on a video game. They were doing it in 3D, bro. Like they were doing it in real life. I guess LARPing does mean real life role playing, but that's what they were doing. Like they looked up to David and Solomon to where they were dressing like them, they were acting like them, even made their own Jerusalem. So the cosmic turtle, it is interesting to note that Hindu texts talk about the earth or land being situated on the back of a turtle, and it says, which to me seems an allegorical representation of the slowly sliding earth plates. And of course, you know that by Turtle Island. But here you have the Axis Mundi pretty much like in the North Pole or something of the sort. Now, I don't necessarily think that the Axis Mundi is in the North Pole, because the Mount Meru, which is the Axis Mundi, is supposed to be the magnetic pole, not necessarily the North or South Pole. It's supposed to be the magnetic pole. But then again, I don't know. It could be in the North Pole. It just wouldn't make too much sense, though. It just wouldn't make too much sense. But I don't know. Now check this out, guys. Mount Meru, also recognized as Sumeru, is considered to be the center of all physical, metaphysical, and spiritual universes. Here, in the Surdyas Siddhanta, mentions that Mount Meru lies in the middle of the earth, in the land of the Jambunad. Sumeru is heard to be in the middle of the earth, but is not seen there. Let's go to Jubilees chapter 8. Let's start at verse 12. And there came forth the writing as Shem's lot the middle of the earth, which he should take as an inheritance for himself and for his sons for the generations of eternity, from the middle of the mountain range of Rapha, from the mouth of the water, from the river Tina. And his portion goes toward the west, through the midst of this river, and it extends till it reaches the waters of the abysses, out of which the river goes forth and pours its waters into the sea Niyat, and the river flows into the great sea. And all that is toward the north is Japheth's, and all that is toward the south belongs to Shem. So this is talking about what seems to be the northern part of Africa. It's starting with his inheritance there, right? The northern part of Africa. It extends till it reaches Karaso. This is in the bosom of the tongue which looks towards the south. And his portion extends along the great sea, and it extends in a straight line till it reaches the west tongue which looks toward the south. For this sea is named the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And it turns from here toward the south, toward the mouth of the great sea on its shore of waters, and it extends to the west to Afra, and it extends till it reaches the waters of the river Gihon, and to the south of the waters of Gihon to the banks of this river. I don't know where all these places, like what I just said was more so a guess, but what we do know, I do believe that is the Gihon, right? What they're calling the Nile, that's the Gihon. But look, check this out. So from the river Gihon, it extends towards the east, which is the right? So right of the Gihon, till it reaches the Garden of Eden, to the south thereof. And from the east of the whole land of Eden, or the whole land of the Americas. So from the Gihon, from the right of the Gihon, all the way to the Garden of Eden. Now, the Garden of Eden is not, it's not the Philippines, it's not Japan, it's not Papua New Guinea. So how far east are we talking? How far east? And I'm going to show you, according to this, that the Garden of Eden is actually talking about South America. And from the east of the whole land of Eden, and the whole east, it turns to the east and proceeds till it reaches the east of mountain named Rapha, and it descends to the bank of the mouth of the river Tina. So it seems like it's all like this middle portion, and then it's the whole land of Eden, or the Americas, right? It's the middle portion of the earth, the so-called middle portion, and then it's the whole land of Eden. This portion came forth by lot for Shem and his sons, that they should possess it forever unto his generations forevermore. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies and the dwelling of the Lord, and Mount Sinai the center of the desert, and Mount Zion the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other. So there's only one Mount Zion, so all these different places, they must be named after Mount Zion. It has to be. Now, what did it say? And there came forth on Shem's lot the middle of the earth. Where is Mount Meru? In the middle of the earth. So Mount Meru and Mount Zion are the same place. They're both the navel of the earth. And for Ham forth the second portion. Now let's skip down to verse 23. And it goes toward the north of the limits of Gadar, and it goes forth to the coast of the waters of the sea, to the waters of the great sea, till it draws near to the river Gihon, and goes along the river Gihon till it reaches the right of the Garden of Eden. So Ham's land is on the right of the Garden of Eden. Is South America not left of Africa? Is Africa not right of South America? So anyway, now they also have a world tree in the Norse mythology. It's called Yggdrasil, right? or Hesperides in the Greek. And I showed you a map a while ago. I can't find the map, and I don't feel like going all the way back to my video, but I already showed you that they've pretty much said that Hesperides, or the garden, was in the Caribbean. There's maps saying that Atlantis was here because Atlantis, the Garden of Eden, Hesperides, Yggdrasil, Yggdrasil, they're all the same place, and they're all talking about that area. Whoops. And people are starting to realize that Hesperides was actually the Americas. That was 11 months ago that someone wrote this. No one commented on it, but it's good research. Good findings. Let me see. Is there anything I want to read here? Let me see. In Greek, Norse, and some American Indian myths, there are elements which are very similar to the Genesis creation story in the Bible. In the Greek myth, Zeus created man from iron and created a companion for Ephemethus, Pandora. Pandora tempted and released troubles on the world. This is similar to Eve and the tree of knowledge. The Norse having something very like the Garden of Eden called the Yggdrasil, the tree of life. Yggdrasil supports the entire world. So that's another connection to the tree of life, Yggdrasil, this cosmic tree in the Garden of Eden. I have so much, bro. Like, I have a lot that I could really share. With this realm, at the center of the world, there's a specific spot where heaven and earth has been believed to be connected, or the distance between them has been seen as the smallest. This spot, which is known also as the Axis Mundi, was often ascribed to an elevated place. An elevated place, bro. This is all talking about the same place, I'm telling you. An elevated place, such as a mountain due to its symbolic rising to the skies. This is why the Spanish said that the holy people live in land that is highest to the sky. That is South America. That's why they went there. That's why they went there first. In the case of the Chinese civilization, for instance, the Axis Mundi is believed to be the mythological Mount Kunlun, which is regarded in Taoism as the mountain at the middle of the world. We're going to get to Mount Kunlun in a second. The sacred Stone, navel of the world and communicator of the gods. Now, when you first look at this, you'd think that this was Peru or something. Looks just like it, but this is in Greece. This is supposed to be the navel of the world stone. Funny enough, this looks exactly like the Intihuatana stone, which the Inca used to pretty much tell the different solstices and stuff. But it's not just that. This stone is supposed to be like fully aligned to the cosmos. Like, there's like a bunch of different things that this stone did, right? Like, this is actually a very, very holy stone, and this is where the Greeks got it from. I got another one. This dude right here, because I've already shared where the magnetic poles are, but right here, these are these poles meeting points. One right here and one right here. So, where's the Garden of Eden? One of the most fascinating objects at Machu Picchu is the Intihuatana. It is a slab of granite work that has been polished with certain angles that in today's world would require high-tech drills. It is believed to be some sort of astronomical clock, and perhaps was used as a component for a calendar. So you don't even know what it was used for. They just think that it was used for some sort of clock. Those that have researched this sacred slab on the highest point of the complex have discovered some unique astronomical associations. The true meaning of its design and purpose remains a mystery, at least to the public consumption. Even within the Inca, there is a loss of history as the Spanish conquistadors destroyed much of the ancient records that even predate the Inca. One other reason why the slab is still in existence is that the Spanish may have never discovered it, or else it would have been destroyed. The name is believed to have been coined by the discoverer of the site. The name is a compound from Inti, which means sun, and Wata, which means to tie up. So that's not even the real name. The sacred slab is situated on the sacred plaza and appears to be tiered. One explanation has been given that each level represents a spiritual world or even possible dimension. In another interpretation of the Intihuatana, it could be considered an emphalos, or one of the centers and literal navel of the world, or at least for the continent of South America. The literal, the literal, it is literally, not figuratively like they try to say, it is the literal navel of the world. South America, the highest land to the sky. As noted, it is suggested by some that the sacred square that housed the main temple of worship was pegged to the four sacred mountains that envelop this Inca citadel in the sky. The four directions are also said to correlate to the four cardinal points of the cosmos that are in turn linked to the progression of the equinox and the celestial signs of Mazzaroth. Wow, bro. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? This is all the things that the stone does. Many have ascribed the function to the hitching post as a giant sundial. There may be some truth to this claim in the sense that during the two equinoxes of March 21st and September 21st, the sun stands directly above the Intihuatana, as no stone is cast. Interestingly, it is the temple of the sun that is just to the south casts an auspicious shadow on the two solstices. The Intihuatana shows an alignment with the solstices. On the winter solstice, oh my gosh, bro. On the winter solstice, for example, the sun sinks behind the Pumasilio mountain, and at sunrise, the light projects a triangle that highlights two concentric circles on the floor. And it's just stuff going on and on and on and on and on. It's not a big article, it's only 5 pages, but there's a lot of great stuff in here. Now, didn't it say in Chinese lore that quote unquote China is supposed to rest on or the center of the navel of China, quote unquote, is supposed to rest on 4 mountains or pillars? Well, that's it. Strangely enough, the same concept is here in Peru. It corresponds to the ley line angles or the intersecting points of the 4 sacred mountains. These 4 mountains are the Huyana, Machu Picchu, Futuk, Cusi, and Pumasilio mountain. So there are 4 mountains there as well. That's why this is like the astronomical center of the world, bro. And I want to point out the Axis Mundi for Mount Ravima because it's all the same place. This world tree, as well as the center, they're both in the same area. Venezuela is not far. It's not far. Now we're going to get into this book right here. Magicians of the Gods, Graham Hancock. According to the most ancient traditions of Mesopotamia, and we've gone over where that is, that was South America. Mesopotamia was South America. Humanity was created at the navel of the earth, and that also says that in the Book of the Bee. If not the Book of the Bee, then it's I forgot what it's called, man. I do not remember. But that's pretty much where it says that, quote unquote, Adam was created at the center or the navel of the earth. In the Rig Veda, the most ancient scripture of India, the universe was born and developed from a core, a central point, bearing markings that Jesus Gamara would instantly nominate as belonging to the oldest, Hanan Pacha, style of the Andes. And we've gone over Jesus Gamara. He is the son of Alfredo Gamara, who came up with this theory that Cusco is actually truly the origin of all civilization on Earth. It is the origin of all civilization. The language is the oldest on Earth. The language and the civilization. The Shitiya. The Shitiya. I hope I'm saying that right. Foundation stone of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. What? Hold up. Belonging to the oldest Hanan Pacha style of the Andes, the Shitiya, foundation stone of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, now the rock of the Dome of the Rock, is considered to be the center of the earth. That's because Jerusalem and Cusco are one and the same. This person is pretty much saying that Jerusalem is based on Cusco. And now Jerusalem is the center of the earth, but before, Cusco was the center. So which one is the replica? This notion that are certain primordial centers of creation from which all else grows is a global theme of ancient religion and mythology. The Most Holy One created the earth like an embryo. As this embryo grows from the navel, so God began to create the world by the navel, and from there it spread out in all directions. In Greek myth, the universal deluge sent by Zeus to punish mankind for wickedness. The only survivors are these, I don't know. Their ark comes to rest on Mount Paranis, high above Delphi, a site regarded throughout classical antiquity as the navel of the earth. Just as Heliopolis in Egypt possessed the sacred Benben, a Bet-til stone fallen from heaven, so too Delphi possessed a Bet-til, nominated as its emphalos or navel stone. Skipping down, we saw in the last chapter the name Cusco, the megalithic city of the Peruvian Andes, means the navel of the earth. More than 4,000 kilometers in Easter Island, you also have Tipito o Tihinua, also means the navel of the earth, which in turn has affinities to the ancient name of Tiwanaku, the stone at the center. So, and all throughout the Americas, you will see this cross, this two intersecting lines, because that's where these people come from. They come from Shem, the city of Shem, from Cusco. The Hopi even said that they came from South America. That's where they actually came from before they went to North America. And the Hopi are actually a mixture of different peoples. They're not just one group of people. They're actually a mixture of different tribes that came together after the Spanish invaded. In 1498, cited by Columbus, who described it as a terrestrial paradise, Venezuela. It was during his third voyage that Christopher Columbus wrote of the sighting of the Orinoco Delta and the shore that would later become Venezuela while sailing in the Gulf of Paria. The terrestrial paradise, right? That's what he called it when he was looking for Jerusalem, right? Because Columbus knew the Book of Jubilees. Quote, "This land of South America is very pleasing, full of an infinite number of very tall trees which never lose their leaves, and throughout the year are fragrant with the sweetest aromas, and yield an endless supply of fruits, many of which are good to taste and conduct and conducive to bodily health. The fields produce many herbs and flowers, and most delicious, the wholesome roots that I fancied myself near the terrestrial paradise. What shall we say of the multitude of birds and their plums and colors and singing and their numbers and their beauty? I am unwilling to enlarge upon this description, because I doubt if I would be believed. We saw so many animals that I believe so many species could not have entered Noah's ark. We saw many wild hogs, wild goats, stags, does, hares, rabbits, but of domestic animals not one. Americo Vespucci on his Eyewitness. The terrestrial paradise. Hold up. Where is it? Did I close it out by accident? Garden of Eden. In Abrahamic religion, the Garden of Eden, or the Garden of God, also called the terrestrial paradise, is the biblical paradise described in Genesis chapter 2 and 3 and Ezekiel 28 and 31. The location of Eden is described in the book of Genesis as the source of the 4 tributaries. Among scholars who consider it to have been real, there have been various suggestions for its location. Okay. The name derives from the Akkadian Edenu, from the Sumerian word Eden, meaning plain or steep. Closely related to an Aramaic word meaning fruitful, well watered. So, anyway, let's just keep reading, because I've already like I can't really convince people where it is. You know, if you don't know, you'll never know. Like I don't know. Let me see. In the Andes of Peru, there are ancient sacred sites and places of immense power, where the land, the mountains, and waters are alive with archetypal energies that spiritually activate us. In these awakened elevations, we find the Axis Mundi, where heaven and earth unite. We are being called forth in these pivotal times of tremendous change to find our balance point, our own Axis Mundi, that will empower us to navigate the chaos in the world around us, and to restore the sacred relationship of the reciprocity with Pachamama, our Mother Earth, and with all beings. I 100% agree with that. On this quest, we will be using special sacred sites as our activating coordinates, while working deeply with the symbology of the Incan cross called the Chicana in Peruvian spiritual cosmology, as a compass to guide us in unlocking the Chicana's mysteries and spiritual codes, in order to find the Nokan Kani, the I am, within its center. Very, very interesting. Now, I'm not going on tour, but these people, especially these Gentiles, bro, like some of them are really realizing what this place is. They're realizing it, bro. Let me see. I don't know what I even wanted to read here, so let's keep going. Oh yeah, so the Spanish actually thought that there must have been some sort of underground ocean, because there's no way that this water was coming out of nowhere. See, that doesn't happen anywhere else on Earth, where water just appears right from nowhere. Like, that's not happening. Let me see. My voice is starting to hurt, so I might end this video soon. I don't need to go through all this. I was gonna get into like the Kabbalah tree of life to tie it in, but Nah, I ain't doing all that. I ain't doing all that. Let me just wrap up this video. So another thing, the Brazilian natives, they have said that there's like an underground, like there's an access to the underground in Brazil, in the jungles of Brazil. And some tour guides have even said that they've seen this. Now, I don't know. I don't know if they're telling the truth or not. I have no idea, but I'm just saying what they said. That they've pretty much seen this underground, civilization. Like some of the Indians have showed him. So that's very, very interesting, because the way how you get into the underground is supposed to be at the center of the or the navel of the earth. So if that's that just lets me know that that's where it is. Let's just go to the Kunlun connection, and then we're gonna finish up. So Kunlun, or Kunlun Shan, is a mountain or mountain range in Chinese mythology, an important symbol representing the Axis Mundi and divinity. Skipping down, another historical development in the mythology of Kunlun, again with the Indian influence, was that rather than just being the source of the Yellow River, Kunlun began to be considered the source of the four major rivers flowing to the four quarters of the compass. That's where you get the swastika from. That's where you get this from. It's the four rivers. This is a symbol of ancient Sumer, ancient Mesopotamia, or the so-called Garden of Eden. Mount Chimborazo is the highest point on Earth because South America is the highest point on Earth. It is the highest land to the sky on Earth, which is again how the garden was described. It's supposed to be high to the sky, it's supposed to be a plain, and it's supposed to be a terrestrial paradise. I'm just trying to wrap up the video at this point. Magnetic center of the world. Ancient Buddhist, Vedic, and Jain standard cosmologies mention that at the North Pole, right, magnetic center of the planet is a hill of magnetite called Mount Meru. So it's made out of this and some sort of iron ore. Let's find that. Let's find where most of this is. You can find it all over the world, in Hong Kong, in California, United States, New Zealand. But the vast majority of this is on that pretty much in South America, as well as Brazil. I've already made a post that Brazil contains like the second most iron in all the world. And Bolivia, Chile, and Peru contain the most copper in the world, and it's really not close. Like, it's not close at all. At all. Mesopotamia was known for its abundance of copper, bro. We went over all of this, man. Large deposits of magnetite are also found in the Atacama region of Chile, the Chilean Iron Belt, the Valentines regions of Uruguay, Kiruna, that's in Sweden, Talawag region of New South Wales, and all these different places. Magnetite-rich sand dunes are found in southern Peru. In 2005, an exploration company, Carduro Resources, discovered a vast deposit of magnetite-bearing sand dunes in Peru. The dune field covers 250 square kilometers, with the highest dune at over 2,000 meters above the desert floor. So, that's all I wanted to share, guys. That's pretty much it. Oh, no. There's two. One last thing. Because they talk about the magnetic center and stuff like that. Well, let's look at the actual map. Where is the magnetic center? This is the 0 point here, right? On the Chilean belt, or right next to Peru. And here's another one. And you see how this goes in pretty much a straight line until it reaches the Americas, and then it starts to dip. It dips here. because this, where Machu Picchu is the 0 point. So that's what I want to share. We'll cover the video later on today, or the movie Avatar later on today. May peace be with you.